Oh, the schoolboy always, which for me was always, it helped me. I could hop on stage and it gives me a bit of confidence.
Have you heard what really happened to Angus Young? Whispers spread like wildfire after his cryptic letter at Wembley. But that was only the beginning. Fans think it's just age catching up. But the truth runs deeper. A silent moment mid-tour, a band-only secret, and a decision that could end acdc forever. Ready to uncover what no one else dares to say. In early June 2025, acdc found themselves in the center of a firestorm after a TikTok clip from their May 4th Power Up Tour show at Gillette Stadium exploded across social media. The video showed Brian Johnson's vocals being nearly drowned out by crowd noise, sparking an avalanche of criticism. Fans began voicing concerns about the band's ability to deliver the electrifying performances they were once known for. Many demanded the group call it quits, claiming their age had finally caught up to them. For some, the image of Angus Young duck walking in his trademark schoolboy outfit at age 70 felt more like a reminder of time's passage than a tribute to rock history. Critics said the performance looked tired. They argued it was better to walk away than risk fading into mediocrity. However, the backlash was far from unanimous. Many others defended the band, noting that their stage presence still held the kind of raw energy that most younger acts could only dream of. Angus Young, in particular, drew praise for his unmatched passion and stamina. Supporters pointed out that despite the viral criticism, ticket sales remained sky-high. The so-called decline seemed disconnected from the numbers, which painted a very different picture. Despite the controversy, the numbers spoke for themselves. On June 26, Ticket announced a record-breaking day with over 370,000 tickets sold across all events. More than 1.7 million people waited in digital queues. Several cities sold out within hours, forcing organizers to add extra dates to meet demand. A sold-out Wembley show prompted Angus to write a heartfelt open letter to fans. The letter released on the band's official website and social media channels. Angus' message is both a tribute to the band's legacy and a thank you to the millions of fans who have supported them for nearly 5 decades. The Wembley concert, part of the band's Power Up World Tour, has been widely praised as a career-defining performance filled with raw energy, nostalgia, and emotional farewells. In his letter, Angus wrote, "As I stood on that stage at Wembley, looking out at a sea of faces, screaming every word back at us, I felt something I hadn't quite felt before, a sense of completion. It was as if everything had come full circle. That night was not just another show. It was a moment in time I'll carry with me forever," he continued. "To my bandmates, past and present, I thank you. It's been the ride of a lifetime. To Brian, Phil, Stevie, and Cliff, thank you for giving your all every night, for standing by me through the ups and downs, and for being part of this incredible journey." Fans around the world have responded with an outpouring of gratitude, sharing messages and memories of how the band's music shaped their lives. The concert featured classics like Back in Black, Highway to Hell, and Thunderstruck with a set list that spanned generations. Then came an even more shocking twist. A European tabloid claimed Angus had confessed to close friends that 2025 would be his final year with acdc. The report mentioned creative exhaustion, tensions within the band, and frustration with the corporate machinery that now controlled much of their operation. This open letter and the rising retirement rumors didn't just stir emotions. They made fans deeply curious. What was really going on behind the scenes? Was it just age catching up or something far more personal? To uncover the real reason, we need to look closer. In recent months, rumors have swirled that 2025 may mark the end of Angus Young's era with acdc. Not because of age or health, but due to a behind-the-scenes battle over the soul of the band. Sources close to the industry allege an internal rift, a brewing creative and corporate war that has quietly simmered for years. According to reports from different platforms, the tension stems from a growing push by the band's management and label to align with modern trends. These include influencer tie-ins, merchandise-driven touring strategies, and even proposals for acdc-branded lifestyle products. For Angus, a man known for his raw stage energy and old-school rock ethic, these moves reportedly clashed with everything he believed the band stood for. Reddit threads suggest that Angus has privately expressed frustration over the distortion of the acdc brand. The image of leather jackets and gritty guitar solos, once organic, now risked being reduced to hashtags and curated sponsorships. Despite the noise, neither the band nor their record label has issued a formal statement. This silence has only fueled speculation. Is Angus silently preparing to walk away, choosing integrity over industry pressure? Or is this just media spin around a man trying to evolve in a changing world? One thing is clear, fans are no longer asking if something is happening. They are asking what exactly is going on behind the scenes. To understand how Angus reached this breaking point, we need to rewind the clock to the personal tragedy that rocked the very foundation of acdc. On March 7, 2016, a crisis hit acdc that would change its course forever. Brian Johnson, the band's iconic frontman, received a devastating warning from his doctors. They told him continuing to perform at stadium-level volume could result in total and permanent hearing loss. For a man whose life had been shaped by music, the news was both shocking and heartbreaking. It wasn't just a career-threatening diagnosis. It was a deeply personal loss for Johnson. Stepping away from the stage felt like losing a part of himself. With upcoming shows on the Rock or Bust tour still scheduled, the band faced an impossible choice. Cancel the rest of the tour and face millions in losses, or somehow find a way to go on without their lead singer. Angus Young, the band's lead guitarist and one of its founding members, was forced to make the call. Rather than end the tour abruptly, he reached out to someone unexpected, Axl Rose, the unpredictable but powerful frontman of Guns N' Roses. The decision rocked the fan base. Some were excited to see a fusion of rock legends. Others were furious, feeling that no one could step into Brian's shoes. While the debate played out across headlines and comment sections, behind the scenes, the band was quietly grappling with loss and uncertainty. Brian later opened up about the emotional pain of stepping away, saying it felt like finding a stranger in your house. It wasn't just about missing shows. It was about being replaced in a role that meant everything to him. And yet, even with that heartbreak, the band carried on. Angus called Axl a lifesaver, crediting him with helping acdc stay on track during a moment when everything seemed to be falling apart. Other than this crisis, they faced the similar situation in 2014. In late 2014, Phil Rudd, the drummer who had powered their rhythm section for nearly 4 decades, was arrested in New Zealand. The charges were serious and unexpected. Authorities accused him of attempting to procure alongside possession of methamphetamine and cannabis. The story dominated headlines, painting a chaotic picture of one of rock's most disciplined bands spiraling behind the scenes. The attempted murder charge was eventually dropped, but the damage was already done. In 2015, Rudd pleaded guilty to drug charges and threats to kill. He was sentenced to 8 months of home detention. For acdc, the timing could not have been worse. Their global reputation rested not only on iconic riffs and legendary performances, but also on the consistency of their lineup. With Rudd unable to travel, the band had to make a difficult call. They replaced him with Chris Slade, a former drummer who had briefly played with them in the early 90s. This marked a tense period for Angus Young. In an interview, he later admitted that working with Phil had become increasingly difficult even before the arrest. Getting Rudd into the studio was challenging. Promoting the album, shooting videos, and preparing for the tour became even harder. It was clear the drummer was struggling with more than just legal trouble. Despite the controversy, acdc pushed forward with the release of Rock or Bust, but something was missing. Critics noted the absence of Rudd's distinctive drumming style, and fans could feel the shift. The tour went on, but there was a looming sense of change within the band. Angus, however, refused to let the legacy falter. He focused entirely on keeping the music alive, especially as his older brother Malcolm, acdc's co-founder and rhythm guitarist, was battling dementia in silence. Phil Rudd's fall from grace became a footnote by 2020 when he officially rejoined the group for Power Up. This album was more than just a return to form. It was a tribute to Malcolm, who had passed away in 2017. The recording sessions were filled with emotion. Angus used old riffs he and Malcolm had worked on years before. Bringing Rudd back into the fold was a bold move, but one that made the album feel complete. The band reunited with familiar energy, channeling their grief and loyalty into one last powerful project. All these crises could have broken any band, but Angus Young stayed resilient, not because it was easy, but because he had already faced storms that most never knew about. So, what explains this unmatched loyalty and resilience? Let's trace back the electrifying journey that brought Angus to this very crossroad. Long before fans debated his final bow, Angus Young had already secured his place among music's greatest. His influence was not only about loud riffs or energetic solos. It was about rewriting what it meant to be a rock performer. His relentless energy, schoolboy stage persona, and piercing guitar tone didn't just fill stadiums, they redefined them. In 2003, acdc reached a defining moment in their career. The band was officially inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a testament to their impact on global music culture. Angus, dressed in his trademark school uniform, accepted the honor in person. His presence alongside names like Steven Tyler, The Clash, and the Ramones solidified that he was not simply part of the crowd. He was the standard. Critical recognition didn't stop there. In 2012, Australian Guitar magazine named Angus the greatest Australian guitarist of all time. This title carried serious weight considering the fierce competition in the Australian rock scene. The win placed him above virtuosos like Tommy Emmanuel and Ian Moss, whose technical precision had long dominated guitar circles. But Angus wasn't about clean execution. He was about feel, presence, and untamed emotion. Back in 2006, Kerrang!, the voice of hard rock and metal, awarded him the prestigious Legend Award. Unlike typical fan-voted titles, this honor came from within the industry, recognizing his contribution to the genre's identity. By that point, his image was inseparable from the global idea of rock itself. Whether you grew up in the 70s, 90s, or even the streaming era, you could likely picture Angus mid-stride, guitar slung low, sweat flying from his brow. His influence didn't stop at awards or lists. Guitarists across generations, from Slash to Dave Grohl, have cited Angus as a major influence. His blues-rooted playing and raw distortion helped shape the harder edge of modern rock, even paving the way for genres like punk and grunge. Still, as towering as these achievements stand, they came after years of pressure, exhaustion, and painful personal decisions. At times, the glitter of trophies only masked what Angus was going through. Let's now tell you about one of the most turbulent nights on one of the Angus tours when something unexpected happened. The kind of moment that no one talks about. Something that could have derailed the entire performance. It was a scene only the band saw unfold in real time. At a concert in Arizona around the year 2000, Angus Young was deep into Bad Boy Boogie when a fan did the unthinkable. He threw a beer at him mid-performance. The atmosphere froze. Thousands watched, unsure of what would come next. Would Angus retaliate? Would the show collapse into chaos? But Angus didn't flinch. He walked over to the troublemaker, looked him straight in the eyes, and without a word jiggled the guy's nose. It wasn't violent. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, unexpected, and commanding. With a simple gesture, Angus then signaled security to step in. The audience roared, not in outrage, but in respect. The band never stopped playing. The rhythm never cracked. The concert rolled forward as if nothing had happened. Yet, the moment left a mark. This was more than a funny onstage encounter. It became an iconic example of how to shut down disorder with grace. Angus didn't give the fan power. He took it away with a touch of humor and a lightning-fast decision. That one move saved the night and likely spared the fan from a much harsher reaction. This calm and quick-thinking presence is more than just a performer's trick. It's part of Angus' DNA. To understand that poise, you have to go back to the suburbs of Sydney, where the youngest of the Young brothers grew up. Born in Glasgow, Scotland in March 1955, Angus Young grew up in a working-class family packed into a small flat with his siblings and hard-working parents. The Young household was always filled with noise, sometimes arguments, sometimes music, but always brimming with character. His father, William Young, worked long hours as a handyman and a factory worker, while his mother, Margaret, held the family together through grit and quiet resilience. Life wasn't easy, but it was full of strong personalities and relentless energy. In June 1963, the Youngs made a bold decision that would forever change the course of Angus' life. Like thousands of others, they joined the UK's £10 migrant scheme, a government-sponsored passage to Australia that promised sunshine and opportunity in exchange for a small fee. The journey to the other side of the world was not luxurious. Once they arrived, the family was placed in a refugee-style migrant hostel where comforts were few and space was tight. Despite the hardships, the move offered something invaluable, a fresh start. Eventually, they settled in Burwood, a quiet suburb on the outskirts of Sydney. Their new home was modest, but it gave the young children the freedom to explore themselves and their surroundings. While many of his siblings, including future acdc co-founder Malcolm, spent hours outdoors playing soccer or hanging out with local kids, Angus found a different rhythm. He gravitated towards solitude, preferring the comfort of his room where he could lose himself in music. It was in that small room that Angus picked up a cheap guitar and started to teach himself. He didn't learn from books or tutors. Instead, he sat for hours listening to the radio, studying records, and mimicking the riffs of the Beatles and Chuck Berry. His fingers became familiar with the fretboard, not through discipline, but through obsession. He played until his fingers ADHD and his ears could anticipate every note. That raw, unrefined, emotionally driven playing became the heartbeat of what acdc would one day stand for. Music wasn't the only thing developing in Burwood. acdc's legendary image took root during an ordinary backyard jam session. Angus' sister Margaret, noticing the youngest Young was still small for his age, handed him his old school tie and shorts and suggested he wear them while performing. As acdc began to rise through the rock ranks, Angus' image as the untouchable schoolboy grew. But behind the persona stood a man deeply loyal to his roots and fiercely protective of his family, especially his brother Malcolm, who had always been more than a bandmate. He was his rock. Behind Angus' rock-solid stage presence lies a deeply private man and a touching final act for his brother Malcolm. What fueled the fire behind their last great album? And how did the brothers channel decades of struggle, loyalty, and love into one final musical statement? While Angus Young's guitar roars through stadiums, his personal life remains strikingly quiet. Away from the stage lights, Angus has long embraced a life of stability and privacy. His enduring marriage to Ellen van Lochem, a Dutch native he wed in the early 1980s, stands out in a world where rockstar relationships often burn out fast. Together, they've built a life that exists far from media frenzy. Their time is split between tranquil residences in Australia, the Netherlands, and the UK, offering Angus the privacy he's always valued. Though known for his relentless stage energy, Angus keeps a disciplined routine. He never drank alcohol, a choice that separated him early on from many of his peers in the music scene. Smoking remains his one visible vice, but even with that, he's avoided major health issues and continues to perform with surprising vigor well into his senior years. He rarely gives interviews, avoids social media, and steers clear of celebrity culture. In many ways, Angus has always been more focused on the music than the fame. That devotion was unmistakable in 2020 when he led acdc back into the studio for what would become a deeply emotional project. Power Up, released in November of that year, wasn't just another album. It was a revival of both the band's spirit and a private promise Angus had made to his older brother, Malcolm. The two had spent years writing together in silence, long before Malcolm's battle with dementia overtook him. Rather than let those unused riffs fade into the past, Angus brought them back to life, crafting an entire album around their final musical conversations. Bringing the classic lineup back together was no small feat. Brian Johnson had previously suffered hearing issues that forced him to step away. Cliff Williams had retired. Phil Rudd had faced legal trouble, but under Angus' quiet leadership, the band reunited, finding new energy and familiar sounds. Power Up was a roaring success, topping charts globally. Yet for Angus, it was more than commercial. It was emotional closure. Through Power Up, Angus offered fans not only new music, but also a glimpse into the bond that had always powered acdc. He never made a show of grief. Instead, he honored Malcolm in the best way he knew, through loud, unapologetic rock, shaped by the very riffs they had once written in a quiet room together. Today, as younger generations discover acdc and older fans continue to return, Angus' legacy grows stronger. He has never chased trends or softened his sound. His commitment to pure rock and roll, built on simplicity, rhythm, and feel has made acdc timeless. With Power Up, Angus didn't just keep the band alive. He ensured that its heart rooted in family and fire would never fade. What do you think about Angus Young possibly hanging up his guitar for good? After everything he's given to rock music, does retirement feel like the right move, or would you want one last tour? Share your thoughts in the comments below.